And we are back, folks. Another week means another 7 dragons to report on across this wide open, unnamed world I have created in my mind. Our adventure has taken us from the village of Dagmar, across the farmlands and meadows just outside its gates, to the forests and caves at the foot of a great mountain range, and the grasslands beyond it. So far, the challenge has been incredibly satisfying. It's a lot of fun to put in the effort and get these pieces done every day of the month, adjusting to the amount of free time you may have on any given day. Check out the first video in this series if you haven't already. It gives the rundown on what this is all about. And let's jump into week 2 of Smorgasbord. Day 8. Coast. For those that choose not to traverse the pathways over or through the mountains, alternative routes exist if you are willing to search for them. Travelers may choose to venture along the coastline instead, though this is not without its own trials and tribulations. You'll usually hear them before you see them. Dragulls are a common sight along the coastline, building their nests on ledges and cliff faces. They are covered in white and black plumage, which is hydrophobic, allowing them to dive beneath the waves on occasion without losing their ability to fly. They have a tendency to flock together, a dozen or so at a time, though they are just as likely to squabble amongst themselves than they are to cooperate. Dragulls are opportunistic predators and will eat just about anything from crabs to fish to dried kelp, though they are too small to pose a threat to a person. Usually. I've heard a few pieces of dragon kibble thrown in the opposite direction can get you out of a tight spot if needed. Day 9. Ocean. Whilst I would advise against venturing into the ocean without the appropriate equipment, it is a very enticing prospect for a young adventurer. After all, there are so many mysteries that the seas may hold. One thing that is not a mystery though is the smiling sawtooth. These serpents seem on the surface to have quite a pleasant demeanor, almost coming across like a puppy in terms of their mannerisms. The issue, however, is that these creatures can reach upwards of 30 feet in length, possess a mouthful of razor-sharp teeth, and have little semblance on what does and does not constitute a mortal wound. I would advise you to avoid going swimming if you can help it. Day 10. First Boss. As previously mentioned, young adventurers are encouraged to take with them a starter dragon on their journey as a means of protection and friendship whilst they explore the world. Dragons are often amongst the most loyal creatures we know of, and starter dragons take this concept to a whole new extreme. If their partner is to ever betray them, it has an overwhelming effect on their soul, leaving them in a tortured and manic state. Dragons with a corrupted soul are violent, destructive, and dangerous to everyone around them, including themselves. Whilst every step is taken to avoid such a travesty from ever happening, some people are simply motivated by cruelty and greed. As such, you must be prepared and stay wary that one day a young corrupted wyvern may stand before you, its breathing heavy and its eyes frantic. You will have but one choice in that moment: fight or flee. Day 11. Swamp. The mangrove swamps found just inland from the coastline are a dangerous place for an adventurer, but they are also rich in wildlife. Animals call just about every facet of this ecosystem home, swimming through the shallow waters, perching in the trees, winding through the roots. Wading through the shallow water, you may even spot a pointed angler on the hunt for its next meal. These feathered wyverns are spry and lanky, stand about as tall as a grown man, and are ill-tempered if approached, so it's best to keep your distance. Most notable, perhaps, is their peculiar means of hunting. They can usually be found watching their prey beneath the surface and waiting for the perfect moment to strike, their necks bent into a sort of S formation. Once that moment comes, in a flash their head explodes forward and beneath the water, then back out just as quickly, more often than not with a freshly caught fish grasped between their jaws. Not much for chewing, they will then swallow the poor thing whole before setting off in search of another. Certainly a bad day to be a fish when these wyverns are about. Day 12. Graveyard. Certain areas across the world seem to attract dragons in their last moments of life and serve as their final resting place, and whilst it is unclear why this occurs, the cycle of life must go on. One such location can be found in a canyon just beyond the mangrove swamps that carves its way through the plateau and is filled with draconic remains. When large dragons die, their bodies provide a huge boost of nutrients to the ecosystem as they break down, and detritivores quickly gather to make the most of it. Ratbats are one such example. Very small dragons, no larger than your palm, these little devils have a nasty attitude and a willingness to take a bite out of just about anything. They will gather in swarms around carrion and feast to the point that they can no longer fly, becoming rotund and lethargic. They will usually then scurry off to hide in a small cave or tree hollow, taking the time to digest and have a nice long sleep. Day 13. Dark Forest. As you now would have looped back into the central part of the region, the canyon feeds straight into a widespread forest, which also borders the ancient steppe grasslands. This forest is different to the other found earlier on in your journey, however, in that it is so dense that not a single ray of sunlight can pierce the canopy, leaving it in a perpetual state of darkness. Within this forest lurks many a creature adapted to this way of living, but few are as bone-chilling as an encounter with a shadow worm. These large toothy serpents blend into their surroundings perfectly with their dark coloration, their size is inconsistent between reports, and they have no trouble sensing their prey with their huge bulbous eyes, which glow eerily in the dark. Some even say they are made of pure shadow, which I believe can be attributed to the thick, smoke-like substance that they emit from their hide. Be careful, if their toothy maw doesn't claim you first, breathing in this substance can cause hallucinations and ultimately drive you mad if you don't find your way out of the forest quickly. In fact, I'd recommend steering clear altogether. Day 14. Grotto. Though the topic of adventure can seem daunting and grim at times, refuge exists all across this land for those eager to find it. Many small caves exist nestled throughout this landscape with a huge variety of micro-ecosystems within them. My personal favourite was a report of a fungal grotto filled with bioluminescent mushrooms and a small lake within it. In the centre of this lake sat a large rock, and atop that rock lay a peaceful dragon. The description stated that it was an earthy green colour and had fungus and lichen growing across its body, including a large toadstool cap atop its head. It seemed eager to share the space with a lost adventurer, seemingly sensing they had no ill intent with its home. What I would give to see that for myself. And so there is week 2 of Smorgas done and dusted. It's been a real joy, and I've made an effort to try some new techniques here and there. This week had varied results, with some pieces going for a more realistic feel, such as the common dragull, which I had to figure out how bird feathers work to imply that they were there and looked right, with other pieces being much more cartoony, like the smiling sawtooth, which came together very quickly and was born from the simple concept of make a Helicoprion dragon. All in all, this week was a blast, and it's been a ton of fun to strive to be at least a little bit creative each day of the week. I would highly recommend it. Go and create something. It's good for the soul.